Has it ever happened to you? You want something so badly, but you see time passing by without anything changing. You visualize. You repeat affirmations. You believe you are ready, but reality remains immobile. It is as if life were testing you, as if the universe's answer was silence. And in this silence, doubt arises. Is there something wrong with me? Do I not deserve it? Am I asking for too much? The pain of something not happening is not just frustration, it is existential. It affects our identity, our faith, our energy, and that is when many give up. Not because they are not capable, but because they were not taught to understand the true path of manifestation. There is a truth that few have the courage to say: wanting is not enough. Most people confuse wanting with being in vibrational readiness. They confuse enthusiasm with energetic coherence, and that is why so many dreams die in the realm of almost. Genuine desire is not just a passing emotion. It is vibrational structure. It is deep-rooted intention. It is emotional clarity combined with spiritual direction. Napoleon Hill understood this profoundly. In his teaching on the burning desire, he did not speak of an emotional and scattered desire. He spoke of purpose, of a non-negotiable decision that transforms the vibration of the one who holds it. For Hill, this type of desire is the beginning of all true achievement, but only when combined with a plan, practical faith, and continuous action. Andrew Carnegie was the mirror of this union. He understood that no desire survives only in the mind. It requires a body. It requires action. It requires aligned behavior. And above all, it requires a faith that does not waver, even when everything still seems the same. Carnegie believed in the power of a directed mind and coordinated action because he knew that the invisible field responds not to what you desire in words, but to what you vibrate with conviction. Vibration, neurochemistry, and coherence are not pretty words. They are the true pillars of conscious manifestation. The biggest mistake is to believe that everything can be solved with positive thinking, as if repeating phrases in the mirror were enough to reprogram an entire history of blockages, fears, and internal contradictions. Manifesting wealth, true wealth, is not a mental game. It is a vibrational code that needs to be lived with the entire body. It involves emotion, biology, choices, and spirit. It is a dance between frequency, intention, and action. When you ignore one of these elements, the field does not respond, and you feel blocked, even though you really want it. That is why this video exists, not to teach you how to desire. You already know how to do that, but to reveal the 5 hidden steps that align everything: vibrational frequency, spiritual neuroscience, emotional purpose, and intentional action. These are steps that most people ignore, but that silently separate those who live in the almost from those who manifest with energetic integrity. If you have ever felt tired of trying, if you have ever thought about giving up because nothing seems to change, then this video is for you, because maybe what is missing is not faith. What is missing is alignment. The journey begins now, a journey of reconnecting with your most authentic vibration, where each step is a fine-tuning of what you want and who you need to become to receive it. It won't be a quick journey, but it will be a real journey. And in the end, you may discover that the most powerful manifestation is the one that begins when you stop chasing after what you want and start vibrating as if it were already yours. The desire that sabotages doesn't arrive screaming. It settles in silently, disguised as hope, camouflaged as enthusiasm. But its root is different. It is born of fear, not of expansion. It is an anxious, desperate desire that doesn't ask, it begs. It begs for change because it can't stand the pain anymore. It begs for wealth because it can't stand the scarcity anymore. It begs for a new path because it feels like the old one is no longer working. And all of this is legitimate. It is human, but it is vibrationally incoherent. When you desire with fear, your energy is not pointing to what you want, but to what you no longer want. And the universe, which responds to vibration, doesn't listen to your words. It listens to your frequency. And your frequency, in this case, is saying, I'm in a panic. There is a profound difference between wanting something because you feel it is the next natural step in your expansion, and wanting something because you can no longer bear your current pain. In the first case, you vibrate in gratitude, in movement, in fluidity. In the second, you vibrate in urgency, in resistance, in desperation. It's like planting a seed and then digging in the ground every day to see if it has grown. Fear suffocates. Doubt contaminates. Anxiety weakens the root of what could flourish. Desire, when it comes from a place of scarcity, becomes vibrational sabotage. You think you are attracting, but in fact, you are repelling. The mind tries to convince you, I want a better life, but the body is often on alert. The breath is held, the heart is racing, the posture is tense, and all of this communicates to the field. Something is wrong. Therefore, before any technique, before any plan, it is necessary to observe where your desire comes from. Is it being driven by faith or fear, by trust or by lack, by the certainty that there is more, or by the despair that what exists is not enough? This question changes everything, because when you realize that you are desiring from absence, you can choose to realign, you can breathe deeper, you can come back to yourself. You can remember that the universe does not respond to your despair. It responds to your state. And your most magnetic state is not that of urgency, it is that of presence. When desire is born from expansion, it does not burn, it warms. It does not suffocate, it guides. It does not demand, it invites. And in this invitation, reality begins to take shape, without noise, without struggle, only with the right vibration. Desiring out of fear of loss is different from desiring out of alignment with your purpose. There is an invisible line that separates fear from purpose. And this line, although subtle, carries an immense vibrational weight. Many believe they are dreaming big, but in reality, they are just trying to escape pain. They are not going toward what they love, but only running from what they fear. This difference changes everything. Because when desire is born from escape, it carries with it the frequency of what you want to avoid. And this frequency infiltrates your actions, your words, your thoughts. It is the kind of desire that says, I want to win because I can't stand failing anymore. But the field hears, I am vibrating failure. Desiring out of fear is like driving while constantly looking in the rearview mirror. You move forward, but with fear, with tension, with doubt. And this tension contaminates every step. On the outside, it may seem like you are determined, but on the inside, you are stuck. Stuck in the old pain. Stuck in the need to prove something. Stuck in the expectation that when you achieve, everything will finally make sense, but meaning never comes later. It needs to be present from the beginning. It needs to be vibrating within your desire. Purpose has a different frequency. It is not born from pain. It is born from recognition. You recognize that there is something greater calling you. You feel an impulse that does not come from lack, but from the abundance of possibilities. Desiring with purpose is silent but firm. It does not shout, but vibrates. It does not beg, but attracts. When you are aligned with your purpose, desire is not an escape valve. It is a natural extension of who you are already becoming. It does not ask the world for permission. It only needs to be assumed internally. Most people have never learned to differentiate between these two places because fear disguises itself well. It dresses up as enthusiasm, puts a smile on your face, repeats affirmations, but inside it trembles. Inside it does not believe. Inside, it carries the urgency of someone who has not yet felt enough. And that is why so much manifestation does not happen, because it is being done from an identity that has not yet reconnected with its vibrational essence. It is being built with the bricks of insecurity. But when desire comes from purpose, it does not ask for haste. It knows that there is a sacred time for everything. It does not measure value based on what has already been achieved. It feels value simply because it is being lived. This type of desire is light, but powerful. It is calm, but non-negotiable. And when it settles, reality begins to bend to your vibration, not because you begged for it, but because you began to vibrate in coherence with what is already yours by vibrational right. This is the first turning point. Understanding that it is not enough to desire. You need to check the root from which the desire springs. And if that root is fear, you need to transmute it. Do not fight against it. Do not judge, but welcome, breathe, listen, and only then choose to vibrate from another place. A place where what you want is not an escape, but a reunion, where your desire is not an attempt to compensate for pain, but a response to the call of your spirit. The effect of dissonant frequency. You say you want prosperity. You say you are ready for abundance. You write, repeat, visualize, affirm, but within you, a subtle vibration, almost imperceptible, says something else. It whispers concern, it vibrates anxiety, and often it screams fear. This silent contradiction between what you want and what you vibrate is what we call a dissonant frequency. And as long as it is present, the field does not open, because the universe does not respond to what you say. It responds to who you are. It is necessary to understand deeply that manifestation is not a request. It is a mirror, and this mirror does not reflect your words. It reflects your internal state. When you say, "I want wealth," but feel scarcity, the mirror returns scarcity. When you say, "I am ready," but vibrate insecurity, the mirror returns situations that reinforce this insecurity. This is one of the firmest laws of the vibrational field, and perhaps also one of the most ignored. The incoherence between thought, emotion, and energy creates noise, and this noise weakens your power of attraction. It's like trying to hear a soft melody through a poorly tuned radio. The music is there, but you can't hear it. Your vibration is trying to align with what you want, but the frequency of fear interferes, and all you manifest are distorted reflections, half-fulfilled opportunities, repetitions of the past. Nothing materializes in a stable way, because your energy is divided. Science has already begun to reveal what the ancient masters have always known. The HeartMath Institute has shown that the heart, when in coherence with the brain, emits a harmonic frequency that directly influences the electromagnetic field around the body. In other words, when emotion and thought are in tune, your entire body becomes a cohesive vibrational transmitter. And it is from this state that the field begins to respond clearly. But this coherence is not forced. It is cultivated. It begins with awareness. It begins when you stop and ask yourself honestly, what am I feeling as I affirm what I desire? What emotion accompanies my request? Is it fear? Is it doubt? Is it necessity? Or is it certainty? Is it gratitude? Is it trust? The answer to these questions reveals not what you think, but who you are at that moment. And it is this being that communicates with the universe. That is why it is not just about repeating positive phrases. It is about aligning your vibration with your intention. It is about embodying the emotion of what you want before it has physically manifested. It is not about pretending. It is about feeling. It is not about convincing the world. It is about reprogramming your presence. It is about internally building the vibrational state that sustains what you want to receive. And when this happens, the field has no choice. It responds because it has always responded. Only before, it was responding to your dissonant frequency, the gap between visualizing and realizing. It is easy to close your eyes and imagine a different life. It is easy to mentally see the house of your dreams, the abundant bank account, the healthy body, the full love. The mind visualizes quickly, in detail, with intensity. But the body often does not keep up. It remains stuck in the now, vibrating distrust, insecurity, resistance. And that is where the void arises. A space between what you see in your mind and what you feel on your skin, between the mental image and the real experience. This space, when not recognized, becomes frustration. Visualizing without vibrating is like trying to turn on a light bulb without electricity. The image is there, but there is no energy. And this energy is not created by intellectual will. It comes from emotion. It comes from the involvement of the body. It comes from the state of presence. When you just imagine, but do not feel, you are doing a mental exercise. when you feel you are beginning to reprogram your vibration. And this difference is what separates dreams that remain on paper from realities that materialize in divine time. Frustration arises when you believe that just thinking is enough, when you believe that repeating mental images generates transformation. But the universe does not move only by images. It responds to states of being, to sustained vibrations, to embodied emotions. And if your visualization is not connected with heightened emotion, with true enthusiasm, with anticipatory gratitude, it becomes just an internal theater, beautiful but empty. Therefore, the void is not in the world. It is in the lack of connection between what you think and what you feel. It is in the absence of coherent action that accompanies what you visualize. Because visualizing is only the first step. It is a map, but the map is not the territory. The image is not reality. It only points a way. It is up to you to follow this path with intention, with choices, with alignment. It is up to you to become the version of yourself that lives what today only exists as an image. The bridge between visualizing and doing is built with high emotional energy, with small and consistent actions that vibrate coherence with what you desire, with rituals that anchor this new identity, with silence that listens to intuition, with courage to act even without guarantees. Because it is not enough to see, you need to embody. And to embody means to feel, to decide, to move. It means to transform images into frequency. And only then, reality begins to respond. Not because you thought it, but because you became it. The brain does not work with beautiful phrases. You can repeat an affirmation 1,000 times. You can write it in all your notebooks, stick it on all your mirrors, record it on your cell phone, and listen to it before you go to sleep. But if your brain doesn't believe it, nothing will happen, because it doesn't respond to the beauty of words. It responds to the consistency of experience. And experience, for the brain, is emotion plus repetition plus action. Beautiful phrases alone don't build a new identity. What builds it is what you feel repeatedly, what you reinforce with behavior, what you sustain with presence. The key is in neurochemistry. When you imagine something and feel deep gratitude for it, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine isn't just pleasure, it's the messenger of motivation. It tells your system, this is important, keep going in that direction. But if you say, I am prosperous, while your body vibrates with fear, the brain doesn't release anything. It goes into dissonance. It realizes that there is a lie in your voice. And when it realizes the lie, it blocks change. Because the brain, above all, seeks coherence, not words. And what creates this coherence is the alignment between intention, emotion, and action. When you truly feel something and act as if it were already part of who you are, your brain starts building new circuits. It starts reconfiguring patterns. It starts releasing hormones and signals that reinforce the new identity. This is how manifestation begins. Not in the realm of isolated thought, but in the realm of neuroplasticity triggered by heightened emotion. The brain's reward system is designed to move you toward what you believe is worthwhile, and it learns through sensory repetition. What does that mean? It means it needs to see, hear, feel, perceive in the body. It needs internal evidence, and that evidence is not external. It doesn't come after something happens. It has to be generated beforehand, because the brain doesn't differentiate between what is real and what is experienced with emotional intensity. And that's the gap. That's the bridge between the invisible and the visible. So it's not about choosing the right words. It's about choosing the right states. States that involve the whole body. Activate your heart, your breathing, your skin, because that is what shapes your vibration. That is what trains your brain to operate in a new pattern. When you combine emotion, felt visualization, and symbolic action, you begin to speak to your nervous system. And when your nervous system believes, the field responds. Because your body becomes a coherent magnetic field, and manifestation happens as a consequence. Not from loose words, but from an integral, deeply rooted vibration, vibrational identity, who you need to become before manifestation. You do not attract what you desire, you attract what you are. And this is one of the points most forgotten by those who walk the journey of manifestation. There is a vibrational identity that sustains every new reality. It is not enough to want prosperity. You need to become someone who vibrates prosperity, even without the evidence yet being present. And this becoming is not about pretending. It is about embodying. It is about internally assuming the state of the desire fulfilled. Neville Goddard said, "Assume the feeling of the desire as already fulfilled." And there is no more accurate metaphor for this crossing. Embracing the feeling does not only mean imagining the future, it means abandoning the version of yourself that is stuck in the past. It means dying to the identity of scarcity, of limitation, of doubtful worthiness, because there is no room for the new reality while the old identity is still occupying the center of your vibration. And this identity does not dissolve with force. It dissolves with awareness, with practice, with the courage to choose to feel differently before everything seems different. This is one of the greatest spiritual tests, maintaining the vibrational state of abundance while reality still reflects absence. This requires practical faith, faith that is not blind, but felt, faith that manifests itself in the body, in posture, in breathing, faith that translates into decisions, habits, and choices that sustain the new vibration. Because identity is not a concept, it is an energetic practice. It is repeated every day through the way you move, speak, think, feel, and act. Being before having, vibrating before seeing. This is the inversion that changes everything. Because true manifestation is not a prize that comes to those who have waited long enough. It is a vibrational response for those who have already realigned themselves internally. And this requires a kind of radical presence. An internal decision to no longer identify with the old versions of yourself. It is like placing a new frequency at the center of your presence and allowing everything around you to begin to respond to this new vibration. That is why the point is not just what you want. It is who you are being while you want it. It is who you are becoming with each silent choice. It is what identity you are nurturing when no one is looking, because this is what shapes the field. Vibrational identity is the invisible magnet that organizes all the realities around you. And when it changes, everything changes with it, not by magic, but by coherence. Because the field cannot help but respond to a vibration that has already become who you are. Manifestation is not a desire, it is a decision. This is one of the most uncomfortable and at the same time, most liberating truths of the manifestation process. Because wishing is easy, it is natural, almost instinctive. Any living human being feels desire, a desire for more peace, more love, more freedom, more abundance. But desire is not enough, because desire by itself does not create movement. It can even inspire, it can excite, but it can also paralyze when it is not accompanied by decision. And decision is the line that separates the dreamer from the manifester. Napoleon Hill understood this deeply when he spoke about burning desire, the burning desire. But he was not talking about a passive desire. He was talking about a type of desire that transforms itself into direction, into vibrational choice, into intentional movement. This burning desire is not disordered emotion. It is focus. It is a type of silent but irrevocable decision that changes your internal posture. That changes your relationship with time. That changes the way you get up in the morning, how you walk, how you choose. Because when there is a decision, there is a cut with everything that does not vibrate at the same frequency as what was chosen. And here is the point that is often forgotten. The decision does not begin outside. It starts within. It starts when you declare to yourself, with your body, with your emotions, with your soul, this is now part of who I am. Not in a theatrical way, but as a non-negotiable choice, as a vibrational code that you start to uphold even if everything around you still reflects the opposite. Because true decision does not wait for permission from reality. It precedes reality. It shapes it. It is this energetic commitment that defines the rhythm of manifestation. It is not about doing more. It is about vibrating with more integrity. It is about living as someone who has already received, thinking as someone who already has, acting as someone who has already become. Because manifestation is not a gift that comes from outside. It is the natural consequence of a deep alignment with what has already been decided internally. And this decision does not need proof. It is the proof. It is the vibrational field where everything begins to reorder itself. That is why the question is not just what you want. It is what you have already decided is yours. What you have already decided to live. What you have already decided to be. Because the universe does not respond to your desire. It responds to your vibrational decision, to your silent commitment, to your coherent presence. And when this decision is real, the field responds, not by chance, but by resonance. Because reality is nothing more than the reflection of what you have already become, even if silently, even if still invisible to the eyes. The internal noise of self-sabotage. It's not always the world that blocks you. It's not always time. It's not always the other person. Often, what paralyzes manifestation is not an external obstacle, but internal noise, a subtle, persistent, almost invisible noise, but deeply sabotaging. This noise is made up of fragmented thoughts, inherited beliefs, unhealed memories, insecurities that disguise themselves as prudence. It's the voice that whispers, "What if it doesn't work out?" Even after you've told the universe that you're ready. It's the tension that arises in your body when you take a step towards your dream. It's the doubt that arises when everything starts to flow. Self-sabotage is silent because it hides itself well. It uses rational arguments. It says it's protection. It says it's realism. But in reality, it's an old vibrational pattern trying to stay alive. It's the nervous system conditioned to scarcity. It's the body accustomed to struggle. It's the mind addicted to control. And when these elements are not observed, they gain strength, and they begin to shape the frequency. You say you want abundance, but you vibrate tension. You act toward the new, but you carry the weight of the old. And so, the field receives mixed signals and responds with confusion. This internal noise is the greatest thief of energy because it fragments your intention. It takes away the strength of your presence. It makes you doubt yourself even when everything is going your way. It weakens your faith without you realizing it. And most dangerous, it can make you believe that the problem is outside, that it is time, that it is the universe, that it is destiny, when, in fact, it is your vibration that is misaligned within. To dissolve the noise, silence is needed. Not external silence, but the silence of inner listening. It takes courage to observe yourself, to notice what thoughts arise when you think about prospering, what sensations appear in the body when you get closer to achieving it, what stories you still tell yourself about what is possible, because that is where the key lies. Manifestation does not depend only on what you want, but what you believe, consciously or unconsciously, is possible to live. This process is not about perfection. It is not about eliminating all doubts. It is about recognizing the noise and choosing not to identify with it. It is about learning to breathe through the insecurity and moving forward anyway. It is about remembering that self-sabotage loses strength when it is observed with presence, when it is welcomed without judgment, when it is transmuted into a new choice, because it is not the noise that defines your vibration. It is what you do with it. It is the space you give your essence to vibrate louder than any old voice. And this space is where manifestation begins to take real form. The mistake of using the universe as a crutch. There is a fine line between trusting the universe and outsourcing one's own responsibility. Sometimes spiritual language becomes a hiding place, a shelter to avoid facing that which can only be resolved with choice, with action, with real change. The phrase, "the universe will provide," is true, but incomplete, because the universe responds. But first it observes. Observe your vibration, your coherence, your movement. It does not give to those who ask with words. It gives to those who support with presence. When we use spirituality as an escape from practical responsibility, the field notices. And it does not respond to the escape. It responds to the truth, to the intention that is accompanied by action, to the faith that translates into attitude. Spirituality is not waiting. It is aligning. It is acting with awareness. It is realizing that each thought, each choice, each reaction is a vibrational piece being placed on the board of reality. The universe is a co-creator, not a servant. It walks together, not ahead. And so each step of yours is a signal for the field. Performative spirituality is subtle. It disguises itself as light. It speaks beautifully. It repeats lofty words. But inside, there is fear of acting. There is fear of making mistakes. There is fear of committing to one's own power. And this fear turns into spiritual procrastination, in paralysis disguised as faith, in memorized phrases that do not touch the real vibration. And the most challenging part, many times, we don't even realize it, because it's easier to wait for a sign than to become the sign itself. But the field is not fooled. It feels the real energy. And when it is passive, the result is also passive. When it is incoherent, the response is also passive. And when it is absent, the manifestation dissolves. Therefore, trusting the universe is not about delegating. It is about collaborating. It is about actively participating in the vibrational dance that creates reality. It is about understanding that you are the visible part of the invisible intelligence, and that your movement awakens the movements of the field. This does not mean controlling. It does not mean forcing. It means taking charge, taking on the role of channel, of bridge, of presence that manifests because it is committed to the truth it carries, because it is willing to do whatever is necessary to maintain its vibration intact, even on days when silence is great, even when the results have not yet arrived. Because true faith does not wait with its arms crossed. It waits with a vibrating heart, with feet moving, with a determined soul. And it is this presence that the universe recognizes and responds with synchronicity, with fluidity, with fulfillment. The power of a magnetic purpose. There is a type of desire that has gravity, that attracts, that calls, that organizes everything around it. This desire is not born of need. It is born of clarity, of the profound certainty that there is something greater to be experienced, something that vibrates in resonance with the essence of being. This is what we call magnetic purpose. It is not just any goal. It is not a generic dream. It is an inner direction that pulsates with such truth that it begins to move everything around it. People, ideas, synchronicities, decisions. Everything begins to orbit around this clarity. Napoleon Hill understood this principle. He did not just talk about wishing, but about wishing with a defined purpose. Because purpose is what gives shape to desire. It is what takes the desire out of the realm of abstraction and anchors it in vibrational reality. Without purpose, desire is unstable. It is vulnerable to doubt, comparison, and fear. But with purpose, desire gains strength. It gains depth. It gains direction. And it begins to become inevitable. Viktor Frankl said that human beings can endure almost any suffering as long as they have a reason. This is one of the most profound truths of existence, because when the why is clear, energy is reorganized, faith is sustained, persistence is renewed. Purpose does not eliminate challenges, but it illuminates them. It puts them in context. It gives meaning to effort, to time, to silence. And this sense is what sustains the frequency needed to stay on track, even when the results have not yet appeared. A magnetic purpose is not a goal, it is a vibration. It is an inner calling that resonates with your most authentic soul. It may be silent, but it is firm. It may seem invisible, but it is constant. And when you access it, everything changes. Because you stop acting out of obligation and start acting out of alignment. You stop seeking approval and start living truthfully. And this creates an energetic field that does not need to prove anything. It simply attracts, naturally, inevitably. The emotional clarity of why transforms intention into direction, because the mind may hesitate, but purpose does not hesitate. It guides, it reminds, it sustains. And when you are connected to it, time does not matter. External opinion does not matter. Waiting does not matter, because you know what you are doing here. You know what you are building. You feel, even in the invisible, that something is forming, something bigger than you. And it is this feeling that sustains the frequency until the manifestation reveals itself. Because when there is purpose, there is movement. And where there is movement with truth, there is creation, always. Beware of rushing. Divine time operates according to a different logic. The mind is in a hurry. The heart often too. But the soul has its own time. It knows how to wait, not out of passivity, but out of wisdom. Because on the spiritual plane, time is not linear. It does not follow the logic of the clock. It follows the logic of vibrational maturation. Manifestation does not happen when you want it to. It happens when you are vibrationally prepared to receive. And this readiness does not always accompany your anxiety. Haste is a subtle form of distrust. It says, if it's not now, it may never be. It places fulfillment on a deadline, as if time defined the value of desire, as if there were something wrong with waiting. But waiting, when it is conscious, is sacred. It is in the interval between the request and the materialization that your energy is strengthened, that your identity is restructured, that your field is organized. And when this internal organization is complete, the external responds. Without effort, without imposition, it simply responds. Vibrational anxiety is treacherous because it looks like commitment. It looks like true desire, but behind it, there is doubt. There is the fear that something will fail. There is the feeling that you need to control everything. And this energy, instead of attracting, blocks, because the field does not open to tense frequencies. It aligns with states of surrender, of deep trust, of vibrational security that does not depend on external proof. Divine timing is not punishment. It is not delay. It is preparation. It is alignment. It is synchronicity being sown behind the scenes of reality. And when you respect this time, something changes inside. You stop rushing. You stop measuring. You stop comparing. And you start to flow. You live in the present with a vibration that already anticipates the future. And this presence, this reliable and mature vibration, is what creates the fertile ground where the new can sprout. That is why it is not about accelerating, it is about sustaining, keeping vibrating even when nothing seems to move, keeping the field clean, the heart open, the spirit available. Because divine time does not reveal itself with fanfare. It arrives subtly, almost imperceptibly, but when it arrives, everything makes sense. And you realize that you were not waiting, you were being prepared. And this silent preparation was, in fact, the greatest gift that time could give you. The body also manifests. Your posture, routine, and energy generate reality. Manifestation does not happen only in the mind. It is not a phenomenon exclusive to the mental or spiritual field. It needs the body. It needs breathing, movement, and vibration that is expressed through physiology. Because the body is the instrument that translates frequency into action. And if the body is not aligned with desire, manifestation is incomplete. It becomes blocked. It is divided between wanting and resisting. What you do with your body throughout the day communicates as much as what you think. Your posture tells the field whether you are feeling worthy or shrinking. Your rhythm reveals whether you are in coherence with abundance or trapped in the rush of scarcity. Your routine shows whether you are willing to sustain what you say you want. Because manifestation is not just what you desire, it is what you practice. It is what you breathe. It is what you live with consistency. Joe Dispenza talks about cardiac coherence and the personal electromagnetic field. He shows with science what the ancients already knew. When the heart and the brain are in harmony, the field around the body expands. And this field is what attracts. It is what organizes. It is what tunes realities. But for this to happen, the body needs to be available. It needs to be awake. It needs to be receptive to the new frequency. This starts with small gestures, with the way you get out of bed, with the care you take with your energy throughout the day, with the rituals you repeat, with the attention you give to your physical and emotional state. All of this tells the field who you are. And this information shapes what you receive. Because the body is the temple where manifestation is anchored. It is where vibration takes shape. It is through it that reality adjusts. That is why, if the body is in collapse, if it is stuck in habits that weaken its energy, if it is disconnected from intention, the manifestation does not flow. It fragments. It is delayed, because vibration needs a clear channel to pass through, and that channel is you, not just your mind, but all of you. Your presence, your breathing, your routine, your willingness to live now, the energy of what is yet to come. When you understand this, everything changes, because you stop waiting for external signs and start creating internal signs. You become the space where the new can enter. You become compatible with what you desire. And in this state, the body stops being an obstacle and becomes a bridge between the invisible and the tangible, between what you dream and what you live, between what is in the field and what reaches you. Because when the body vibrates in coherence with the soul, there is no longer any separation, only creation, authentic, integral, inevitable, the pattern of transgenerational scarcity. Not every scarcity you feel is yours. Not every feeling of limitation comes from your individual history. There are pains that did not begin in you, but that live within you, frequencies that were inherited, beliefs that were transmitted silently, through glances, repeated phrases, family patterns. Scarcity is often not a conscious choice. It is a vibrational inheritance, an unconscious code passed down from generation to generation. And as long as this code is not recognized, it continues to act, it continues to create, it continues to limit. The pattern of scarcity is not just a lack of money, it is a lack of deservingness. It is difficulty in receiving, it is fear of standing out, it is guilt for prospering. It is the feeling that something will go wrong if everything goes too well. It is that subtle voice that says, "It is not for you." And this voice often does not come from within. It comes from outside, but it has become internal because it was heard so many times that it gained space within your vibration. And today, you carry it without realizing it. How many times growing up did you hear that you had to fight hard to have little? That money doesn't bring happiness, that rich people are unhappy, that simple is always better. How many times have you seen your parents or grandparents sacrifice themselves, cancel their dreams, accept the bare minimum as if it were all they could have? These images remain. These speeches become beliefs, and these beliefs shape your reality, not out of malice, but out of loyalty, because often your vibration still wants to honor the system that came before you. But honoring is not repeating. Honoring is healing. Honoring is being the link of transformation. Honoring is recognizing the pain that came before and choosing not to perpetuate it. It is looking with compassion at those who taught you to limit yourself and still choosing to expand, because your expansion also frees what came before. Your abundance is not betrayal, it is reparation. It is a new code being imprinted in the family field, a code that says, it is safe to grow. It is safe to receive. It is safe to be more. When you realize this, guilt dissolves, fear loses strength, and scarcity ceases to be an identity. It becomes just an old story that you decided not to repeat. Because now you are writing a new story, a story where you honor the past, but do not imprison yourself by it, where you are grateful for what was, but vibrate what can be. And in this space, a new frequency is born, one that no longer carries the weight of lineage, but rather the light of consciousness, the power of healing, the vibration of freedom. Vibrating differently is perhaps the greatest act of love that you can offer to your ancestry and also to your own life. Are you vibrating desire or lack? This is one of the most revealing questions in the entire manifestation process, because what seems like desire is often lack in disguise. The line between the two is subtle, but the field feels it. You can say that you want prosperity, that you want freedom, that you want true love, but if your body vibrates need, the field responds to the need, not to the intention, because the field is neutral. It does not judge. It only responds to the dominant vibration. Desiring with truth is different from desiring with urgency. When you vibrate desire, there is an expansion, a warmth in the chest, a silent confidence that sustains. But when you vibrate lack, there is tension, there is haste, there is anxiety camouflaged as faith. And this anxiety is perceived. It is registered in the field. It communicates, I am not yet. I do not yet have. I cannot yet. And this vibrational communication becomes a cycle, a pattern, a repetition that keeps reality stagnant. This is why many manifestations do not happen, not because the desire is not legitimate, but because the frequency is still stuck in not having, in not being, in absence. True desire is a vibrational field that already carries the seed of what one wants to experience. It does not depend on external signals. It pulsates on its own. It generates movement. It inspires action. It radiates presence. And it is this vibration that activates the field around it. You can feel this difference in your body. When desire is real, it doesn't contract you. It expands you. It doesn't tire you. It vitalizes you. It doesn't imprison you in waiting. It sets you in motion, in the now. On the other hand, when lack dominates, everything becomes heavier. Life loses its lightness. The journey becomes a demand. Faith becomes effort. And nothing seems enough, because the frequency continues to point to what is absent, not to what is being born. The change begins when you begin to observe honestly. When you ask yourself, what am I really vibrating right now? What emotion accompanies my request? What sensation accompanies my desire? The answer to these questions doesn't require judgment. It requires presence. It requires choice. Because it is always possible to move. It is always possible to realign. It is always possible to leave the frequency of lack and return to the vibration of pure desire, the one that is born of certainty, not of need, of connection, not of urgency. And when this change happens, everything transforms. Because the field doesn't need words. All it needs is coherence. And coherence begins within, in silence, in breathing, in choosing to feel now what you so much hope to experience later. That is the key. And it has always been within your reach, not in the future, but in the state you decide to sustain in the now. When the universe tests you, the chaos before manifestation, there is a sacred, silent, and almost always misunderstood moment in the manifestation journey. It is the moment when everything seems to fall apart. When certainties fade, internal structures break, and what once seemed safe begins to crumble. This moment is mistaken for failure, but in fact, it is a sign of transition. It is the collapse of the old identity. The last test before the new reality is consolidated. The universe at this moment is not denying. It is cleaning. It is aligning. It is reconfiguring everything so that you not only receive, but sustain what is to come. Chaos is not punishment. It is childbirth. It is the dismantling of what no longer resonates. It is the fall of what cannot continue. And often, this fall hurts because it involves leaving behind comfort zones, old ways of thinking, relationships that no longer vibrate at the new frequency. And all of this is scary. All of this messes with the ego. It messes with control. It messes with the illusion of security that was built around a limited identity. But it is at this point of collapse that you are invited to choose again. Not with your mind, with your soul. The universe tests not to see if you are worthy, but to reveal where there is still doubt, where there is still resistance, where there are still parts of you that are not in alignment with what was asked. The test is revealing. It shows clearly whether you are vibrating truth or just desire, whether your decision is rooted or just idealized. And it is at this moment that many give up, because they confuse chaos with refusal. But chaos is adjustment. It is fine alignment. It is vibrational preparation. It is important to remember that every solid manifestation requires a clean space to land. And this space is internal. When you ask for a new reality, but you carry old patterns within you, the field cannot sustain the new. It needs to reshape you. It needs to dissolve what is holding you back. And this process, at first glance, seems like chaos. But behind the appearance, there is precision, there is intelligence, there is love. Because what is coming is great, and what is great needs a solid foundation. That is why, when everything seems to go wrong, It is perhaps the clearest sign that everything is starting to work out, not because it has become easy, but because it has become true, because the layers are falling away and only the essential is remaining. In this space, the new is born, not as magic, but as a vibrational response. And when it arrives, you understand. You understand that chaos was not an obstacle, it was a passage, it was a ritual. It was the last portal before reality completely transformed. How small decisions resonate with great manifestations. It is not in great acts that reality transforms. It is in the smallest gestures, in the choices you repeat every day when no one is looking, in the way you start the morning, in the tone of your voice when you talk to yourself, in the time you dedicate to what you say is important. Manifestation does not happen in a single grand moment. It is built as a continuous echo of micro-decisions, small vibrational actions that, added together, rewrite your presence. And it is this presence that shapes what reaches you. Every choice you make carries a frequency, and that frequency tells the field who you are. When you choose to eat more consciously, you are saying, "My body matters. My energy matters." When you choose not to sabotage yourself, even in something small, you are saying, "I am ready to sustain myself." When you choose to slow down, take a deep breath, wait with faith, and not in a hurry, you are saying, "I trust in divine timing." And the field responds, because it does not ignore any vibration. Many wait for an external change to start acting differently. But what transforms is not what comes later. It is what you do now. It is what you decide to maintain, even on the days when doubt appears. Even on the days when the old pattern calls. Even on the days when the desire to go back seems more comfortable. The field observes consistency. It feels vibrational integrity. And this integrity is not built in a moment of inspiration. It is built in daily life. Small decisions are seeds. Each one carries an intention, an emotion, a vibrational code. And when these seeds are nurtured with repetition, with presence, with truth, they blossom. Not always at the expected time, but always at the right time. And the most beautiful thing about this is that you don't have to do everything at the same time. You just have to be attentive. Attentive to what you are vibrating when you choose. Attentive to what you are reinforcing when you decide. Attentive to what you are communicating, even in silence. Because it is not the big plans that attract. It is the small, vibrational commitments to the new identity that you are becoming. And when these micro-choices are aligned with your purpose, with your real desire, with your embodied faith, the field begins to move, little by little, silently, but with precision. And one day, when you least expect it, everything changes. Not by chance, but because you sustained the invisible in the small decisions. Because you vibrated truth, even without proof. And this truth became reality. As a consequence, as a response, as a reflection of what you were, choice after choice, frequency after frequency, presence after presence. Visualizing without a body is useless imagination. You can imagine the life of your dreams in every detail. You can mentally construct perfect scenarios, visualize houses, trips, encounters, rewards. But if the body does not participate, everything remains as an image, a beautiful image, perhaps comforting, but energetically empty. Because the field does not respond to the image, it responds to vibration. And vibration only occurs when the body feels it, when the body incarnates, when the body becomes a living extension of what the mind visualized. The body is the bridge. It transforms the abstract into the concrete. It translates intention into magnetism. And for this reason, any visualization that does not go through it gets lost along the way. It remains stuck in the mental plane. And the mental plane, alone, does not manifest. It directs, it dreams, it clarifies. But it is the body that anchors, that materializes, that sustains. It is in it that energy condenses. And without this condensation, reality does not change. Because there is a lack of vibrational density. There is a lack of embodied truth. The technique of somatic rehearsal is simple, but profound. It is feeling with your entire body what you want to experience. Breathing like someone who already lives. Walking like someone who already is. speaking like someone who already has. Not for show, not for pretense, but for vibrational choice. It is a type of invisible training, a reconditioning of the nervous system, new information being registered in the tissues, in the muscles, in the posture, because the body learns. And when it learns to vibrate the new reality, it comes closer. Imagine someone who wants financial freedom, but lives with hunched shoulders, lowered eyes, shallow breathing. This body language communicates scarcity, fear, withdrawal, and the field responds to this, not to the mental desire. But when this same person begins to raise their head, breathe more deeply, move with more presence, something changes. The vibration changes, and the field then responds differently. The body has memory, and it also has power. When you involve it in your spiritual practice, everything intensifies, because there is no longer any separation between what you think, feel, and manifest. Everything aligns. Everything becomes one presence, one frequency, one message to the universe. And that message is clear. I am ready, not just with words, but with vibration, with posture, with breathing, with felt action. And when the body vibrates this, the field listens and begins to give back, not because you imagined it, but because you became it. In presence, in energy, in truth, the cycle of receiving. Why many people cannot bear the wealth they ask for. It is easy to ask. It is harder to receive, and it is even harder to sustain what has been received. There is a silent paradox in the journey of manifestation. Many people desire abundance, but unconsciously reject it. They ask for wealth, but are afraid to shine. They dream of expansion, but feel guilty about having more. They visualize a new life, but unconsciously sabotage themselves when it begins to approach. Because receiving requires a new level of identity, and not everyone is prepared for this. Receiving is not passive, it is a vibrational choice, and this choice often clashes with old traumas, family beliefs, and social conditioning. How many of us have learned that money corrupts? That those who have a lot lose their simplicity? That being successful means moving away from our roots? These ideas, even when they are not conscious, shape our vibration. And this vibration tells the field, I want it, but I am afraid. I ask, but I do not feel ready. I desire it, but I don't know if I deserve it. And the field listens. There are those who manifest and then destroy what they have built. They lose the opportunity. They break off relationships. They disorganize finances, and they don't understand why. But behind these actions, there is an untreated resistance, a type of self-sabotage that says, this is not for me. This is too much. If I receive it, I might lose it. If I have it, I might be pushed away. And with that, the energy of abundance is rejected, not for lack of desire, but for an emotional inability to sustain what was attracted. Sustaining abundance requires internal structure. It requires emotional presence. It requires a nervous system trained to deal with more, with visibility, with responsibility, with bigger choices. And this is not built overnight. It is a process, a vibrational training, a deconditioning of everything that taught you that less was safer, that small was more acceptable, that average was enough. To truly receive is an act of courage, because abundance amplifies everything. It amplifies what is healed, but it also reveals what still needs attention. It illuminates the depths of your identity. It exposes your weaknesses, and it invites you to grow along with what you asked for. And not everyone is willing to grow so much, because growing hurts. Growing demands. Growing transforms. But when you overcome this resistance, when you embrace fear without letting it decide for you, when you allow yourself to expand even with the initial discomfort, something reorganizes. You stop just asking, and you start to truly allow. You stop just wishing, and you start to align yourself. You stop just waiting, and you start to receive with presence, with maturity, with gratitude. And in this state, abundance no longer scares you. It welcomes, it confirms, it nourishes, because you are no longer the same person you desired. Now you are someone who vibrates. I can, I deserve, I support, I honor what arrives. And what arrives then remains. It grows. It multiplies because it has found a vibrational space where it is welcome, where it is celebrated, where it is recognized as natural, not as an exception, but as a reflection of who you have become. The hidden language of the universe is coherent emotion. The universe does not speak Portuguese, English, or any other known language. It communicates through frequencies, through resonance, through states of being, and the language it understands most clearly is that of coherent emotion, an emotion that is not fragmented, that is not disguised, that is not trying to be what it is not, but an emotion that vibrates with wholeness, with alignment, with truth. When you feel something authentically and maintain that feeling in a stable way, you are speaking directly to the field. You are sending a message that does not need translation. Emotional coherence is when what you feel, think, say, and do are in the same vibration. It is when there is no separation between desire and behavior, between intention and action, between dream and presence. This coherence is magnetic because it eliminates the noise, it dissolves the doubt, it grounds the energy. And in that state, the field begins to respond accurately because there are no more conflicting messages being sent. Just a clear, stable, reliable frequency. But achieving this coherence is not simple. It requires listening. It requires vibrational honesty. How many times have you said you were fine, but inside you felt tired? How many times have you said you trusted, but your body was shaking with fear? How many times have you tried to appear at peace, while inside you were collapsing? These internal disconnections create noises that weaken your manifestation, because the field does not respond to what you show. It responds to what you vibrate. And this vibration comes from your most sincere emotion, not the most desired one. That is why the work is not to force elevated emotions. It is to heal the emotions that are still blocking you. It is to clean the emotional basements where you still hold pain, fear, shame. Because only when these spaces are illuminated can coherent emotion emerge, not as an imposition, but as a natural consequence of someone who is at peace with their own truth. And this peace, this wholeness, creates a vibration so clear that the universe cannot help but respond. Coherent emotion is not just feeling good, it is feeling true. It is feeling aligned with who you are, with what you desire, and with what you practice. It is when there is no longer an internal division between the spiritual and the practical, between the invisible and the visible, between the sacred and the everyday. Everything vibrates together. Everything communicates the same thing. And when this happens, the field understands, and it gives back. Because now, finally, you are speaking the same language as the universe. The language of stable vibration, of felt emotion, of coherence as presence. And this presence in itself is already a manifestation. It is already a response. It is already an open path. Your environment is your energetic ally or enemy. What is around you is not neutral. Every object, every room, every sound, every image carries a vibration. And this vibration converses with yours. It influences your presence. It feeds or weakens your energetic field. The environment in which you live, work, rest, and dream is an active part of your manifestation process. It can be a silent ally, which reinforces your intention, or it can be an invisible enemy, which sabotages your vibration without you realizing it. Many times, you do the inner work. You meditate, affirm, visualize, but the external space does not keep up. It is loaded with accumulation, noise, stagnant memories. And this discrepancy creates a misalignment because the field needs coherence. And if your inner world vibrates expansion, but the external world vibrates stagnation, the manifestation does not find fertile ground. It gets lost between what you feel and what you keep around you. The environment does not need to be luxurious. It needs to be symbolic. It needs to tell the same story that you are writing within yourself. It needs to reflect the identity that you are assuming. It is about details, about energy, about intention imprinted on objects. An environment aligned with what you want to live vibrates simplicity, presence, clarity. It sustains your frequency even when your mind wavers. It reminds you, in a subtle way, of the path you have chosen. Look around. What messages is your home sending you? Is it saying you deserve it? Is it saying you are ready? Or are you stuck in old versions, in objects that carry guilt, fear, memories of scarcity? Often, liberation begins with a small change. Making space, letting the light in, changing the position of something, creating a symbolic altar, bringing nature closer, ritualizing everyday life. These simple actions have a profound vibrational power because they show the field that you are ready to sustain the new, that you care about your vibration, that you are aware of the energy around you, and this awareness changes everything. It turns the environment into a vibrational mirror of your intention, a subtle reinforcement of your new frequency. And this strengthens your manifestation because the field reads the whole. It reads your internal vibration and the external scenario, and when both say the same thing, the flow intensifies. The answer approaches. Reality reorganizes itself, because now everything in you, inside and out, is saying yes. Yes to the new, yes to abundance, yes to the life that is being born, even in the silence, even in the details, even in the walls that now vibrate with the same call of your soul. Without ritual, there is no reality. The importance of integrating symbolic rituals into daily life. What is repeated with intention becomes sacred. What is lived with presence becomes vibration. And reality, however practical it may seem, is profoundly shaped by what you ritualize. Without ritual, life slips through your fingers. Without ritual, the days pass without vibrational memory. Without ritual, the field finds no anchorage to sustain internal transformations, because ritual is the link between the invisible and the tangible. It is the way the soul finds to express itself in the world. Rituals do not need to be complex. They need to be true. A glass of water blessed in the morning, a conscious breath before each important decision, a gesture of gratitude repeated every day, always in the same place, always with the same intention, a silent bath where you decide to let go of everything that no longer serves you, a song, an aroma, a candle, simple elements, but loaded with meaning, with presence, with frequency. When you create rituals, you are telling the field, I am present. You are telling your nervous system, there is safety here. You are telling your vibrational identity, this is important. And over time, these small gestures gain energetic strength. They become anchors. They become portals. They become constant reminders of the reality that is being chosen, nourished, and manifested. Because what you repeat, you strengthen. And what you strengthen becomes reality. In the absence of ritual, manifestation becomes scattered. Energy is lost among tasks, distractions, and urgencies. But when there is ritual, there is alignment. There is pause. There is breathing. There is rooting. Ritual slows down time. It expands perception. It allows the body to feel, the heart to speak, the soul to manifest. It transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. It transforms the moment into a channel. And this channel becomes the place where the new can arrive. Modern life has distanced us from rituals. We have exchanged presence for speed, sacredness for efficiency, but the soul misses it, the body misses it, and the field misses it. Therefore, resuming ritual is resuming the vibrational control of one's own existence. It is getting out of automatic mode. It is remembering that you can, indeed, create your reality, not only with thoughts, but with conscious gestures, with vibrational habits, with symbols that speak to the invisible. Because ritual does not convince the universe. It convinces you. It aligns you. It anchors you. It reminds you every day of who you chose to be. And when you remember frequently, the field responds clearly. And reality, little by little, stops being a repetition of the past and becomes an expression of what you have the courage to vibrate every day with intention, with soul, with truth. Napoleon Hill and the closing of the cycle of manifestation. Desire plus faith plus action plus persistence. Mastermind. At the heart of every true manifestation, there is an invisible structure that supports the visible. It is not just about wanting, nor just about believing, nor about acting without direction. What Hill revealed to us with precision is that there is a sacred cycle, a set of vibrational elements that, when united with integrity, create reality. And these elements are desire, faith, action, persistence, and the mastermind, the collective consciousness in harmonic vibration. Desire, by itself, is just a spark. It is the first vibration. But without faith, it goes out. Without faith, it turns into anxiety, into demand, into frustration. And the faith that Hill speaks of is not blind. It is vibrational. It is the kind of faith that translates into posture, into outlook, into internal rhythm. It is the faith that sustains the state of "it hasn't arrived yet, but it's already mine." And this faith, when real, moves action. Not a frenetic action, but a coherent action. Action that arises from the internal state, not from the fear of absence. Action that confirms to the field that the decision has already been made. But even with action, reality can take time. And that's where persistence comes in, not as blind insistence, but as a stable vibrational presence. Persistence as an energy that repeats itself with truth. That does not corrupt itself over time. That does not trade its essence for immediate results. Because manifestation, when it is profound, needs time to take root. It needs to overcome resistance. It needs to shape identity. And only those who persist with awareness go through this vibrational crossing. And there is still one last element, often neglected: the mastermind, the union of minds in high vibration, the connection with other consciousnesses that feed your vision, that sustain your frequency, that remind you of who you are when you forget. Manifesting alone is possible, but manifesting with the support of an aligned network is exponential, because the collective field amplifies, it accelerates, it sustains, it protects. This structure, desire, faith, action, persistence, and mastermind, is not just a formula. It is a cycle of consciousness, a vibrational process that transforms reality from within. When these 5 elements are present, there is coherence. And when there is coherence, there is response. The field aligns. Reality opens up. And what seemed distant becomes inevitable, not by magic, but by frequency, by constancy, by sustained decision. And this is true manifestation, not the one that surprises, but the one that confirms what was already vibrating within you. Since always. Since the first, yes. Since the first step. William Walker Atkinson and the law of vibration as the basis of conscious manifestation. Before many spoke of frequency, energy, and quantum field, William Walker Atkinson was already writing about vibration as the essence of all reality. He understood something that science is now beginning to confirm. Everything vibrates. Everything emits signals. Everything is in constant, energetic movement. And in this movement, there is a language, an intelligence, a code. Manifestation, in Atkinson's view, was not mysticism. It was law. Natural, predictable, active law. And this law said, like attracts like. Your vibration attracts that with which it resonates. The law of vibration is not just a concept, it is a structure that organizes the invisible. Imagine a radio. You may want to listen to a specific station, but if you don't tune into the correct frequency, you will only find noise. This is what happens to those who desire something, but vibrate out of sync with what they desire. Vibration is not a passing emotion, it is a sustained state, a combination of thought, feeling, and intention that, when maintained consistently, becomes magnetism. Atkinson knew that vibration precedes form, that what you see in the world is only the material expression of what has been vibrating for a long time on the subtle plane. And so, manifestation does not begin with doing, it begins with being. Being the vibration of what you desire. Being the field compatible with the reality you want to attract. Being the energetic magnet of a life that you cannot yet see, but that you can already feel. It already pulses. It already speaks to you in dreams, intuitions, signs. This vibration cannot be forced. It is cultivated. It is nourished with choices, with presence, with daily practices, with inner silence, and above all, with the decision not to identify with the old pattern, Atkinson spoke of the mind as an instrument of vibrational tuning, and what he meant was simple and profound. You can train your mind to tune into the new. You can choose thoughts that feed the new frequency. You can sustain emotions that bring you closer to what you want to experience. Not by denying what is difficult, but by being aware that vibration does not respond to what is fair, but rather to what is compatible. The beauty of Atkinson's teaching lies in its silent firmness. He did not sell quick promises. He spoke of internal power, of a force that has always been available, but that needs direction. It needs clarity. It needs vibrational responsibility, because to vibrate something is to assume its impact. It is to accept that you are the cause, that you are an active part in the creation of your experience. And that changes everything. It takes you out of the victim position. It puts you at the center of the process, and it shows that reality is not random. It is vibrationally coherent with who you are now. The law of vibration, when understood in depth, reveals that there is no distance between you and what you desire. What there is a difference in frequency, and frequency adjusts. It rises, it strengthens, with intention, with practice, with presence, with truth. This is the path, a path that does not begin in the world. It begins within, in silence, in vibration, in deep connection with the part of you that already knows. You do not attract what you ask for. You attract what you vibrate. And this vibration, when it is complete, changes everything, with precision, with time, with active faith, because the universe responds to what is real, and vibration is what's most real, even when invisible, even when silent, even when still formless. Summary of the 5 invisible steps: vibrational alignment, emotional clarity, felt visualization, coherent action, energetic patience. True manifestation is not revealed in ready-made formulas. It is not reduced to techniques. It is a deep vibrational process where each element acts as a pillar that supports the new reality. Therefore, it is necessary to look beyond what seems obvious, because what manifests is not just desire, but the internal state of the one who desires. And this state is built on 5 invisible foundations, which together form the ground where everything flourishes. The first of these is vibrational alignment. Nothing happens outside that is not first vibrating within. Alignment is not perfection. It is coherence. It is the constant and silent choice to sustain a vibration that corresponds to what you want to experience. It is looking at your now and asking, what am I emanating? It is realizing that the field responds to you all the time, not with judgments, but with resonance. And that this resonance only changes when you change your internal state. Next comes emotional clarity, because wanting is not enough. You need to know why you want it, not with mental justifications, but with an emotional truth that pulses in the center of your being. Emotional clarity is feeling the desire with roots. It is knowing what it represents, what it heals, what it reveals in you. It is transforming desire into direction. And the direction is only sustained when it is born from an emotional motivation aligned with the soul, not with the ego. When this clarity emerges, the field understands, and it begins to organize everything around it to respond to this true yes. The third step is felt visualization. Visualization is not just seeing images. It is embodying sensations. It is allowing the body to feel now the vibration of that which is yet to come. It is making the internal rehearsal a vibrational practice that reconfigures the electromagnetic field of your being. When visualization is felt with heightened emotion, it becomes a seed, and the field responds to the vibrational seed even before the fruit appears, because it recognizes the truth of feeling, not the performance of imagining. Then comes coherent action. Action is not soulless effort. It is not movement out of fear. It is the natural expression of a vibrational state. Coherent action is acting as someone who already trusts. It is choosing as someone who already belongs. It is living as someone who has already become. Not because everything is ready, but because your field already vibrates as if it were. This action does not depend on guarantees. It depends on energetic integrity, and when it is maintained, It informs the field, I am prepared, and the field then confirms. Finally, energetic patience, because external time does not determine the validity of your process. What matters is not speed, it is stability. Vibrational patience is not passive waiting, it is active support. It is maintaining the vibration even when the signals have not yet arrived. It is not using absence as an excuse to back down. It is trusting that the invisible is working, even if matter has not yet responded, because those who truly vibrate do not wait for confirmation. They vibrate because they already are. They vibrate because they already know. They vibrate because the field always responds to the silent constancy of the sustained frequency. These are the 5 invisible steps. They do not appear to the eye, but they structure what the eye will one day see, because manifestation begins where almost no one looks, in intimate alignment, in emotional truth, in embodied feeling, in coherent choice, and in faith that remains. And it is in this vibrational permanence that reality finally bends, not as a miracle, but as a response to what has been all along, truth vibrating within you. How to sustain frequency even without immediate results, and why this is the true hidden power of the manifester. There is a phase in the manifestation process that few understand. It is the time after alignment, after coherent action, after vibrational commitment. It is the time when nothing yet seems to have changed. External reality remains the same. The signs are subtle, the results still invisible. And it is in this space that many get lost, because they mistake silence for absence, waiting for error, and they retreat, doubt, give up. But this is, in truth, the most sacred moment of all, the moment when the vibration needs to be maintained, even without tests. The moment when you're not being tested, you are being shaped. Sustaining frequency when everything still seems the same is what separates the dreamer from the creator. Because the true power of the manifester is not in wishing hard. It is in remaining with integrity. It is in continuing to vibrate as if it already is, even when nothing yet is. And this state is achieved through an internal ritual, a ritual of remembrance, of return, of anchoring. It is not about repeating meaningless affirmations. It is about inhabiting the body as if it already carried the new. It is about breathing with presence, about walking with intention, about living with the firmness of someone who already knows that the field responds to what is stable. This ritual does not require a special setting. It requires attention. It requires that you become aware of your cycles, that you know when you are moving away from your vibration, that you recognize when you are returning to the old pattern, that you choose, again, to realign every day, in every moment. Because manifestation is alive. It moves with you, and you only sustain it when you become the guardian of your own frequency, a silent, patient, present guardian. The absence of immediate results is not the absence of movement. Often, the field is silently reorganizing itself, testing its coherence, refining the details. And if you give up at this point, it is not because reality would not come. It is because it still needed a little more vibrational stability. And you didn't know how to wait. But when you know how to sustain, when you understand that the time between the invisible and the visible is part of the process, then you enter another state, a state of true trust. Trusting is not waiting with your arms crossed. It is acting with faith. It is keeping the space clear. It is continuing to choose to be, even without applause, even without an audience. Even without external certainty, it is keeping your heart open. It is keeping the field active. It is keeping the energy high, even in silence. And this type of trust creates realities that can no longer be undone, because they were built based on who you have become, not on what the world has given you. This is the final ritual, the ritual of permanence, of vibrational firmness, of mature faith. And when this ritual becomes part of you, manifestation is no longer a question of if, it is only a question of when, because you're already vibrating as someone who lives the new. And the new, then, can no longer avoid you. It finds the way. It arrives. And when it arrives, you no longer need it to feel whole, because it was already whole before. It was already abundant before. It was already deserving before. And that is why everything begins to blossom, not as magic, but as a consequence, as a mirror, as an answer, as a silent confirmation of what you chose to vibrate. Every day, even in the dark, even alone, even without guarantees, but always with truth. An invitation to internal transformation before external transformation. Manifestation begins where your vibration is when no one is watching. The world often measures success by what is visible, by numbers, by possessions, by external achievements. But true transformation does not begin with what others can see. It begins in silence, in the space where only you have access. The moment you are alone with your thoughts, with your pain, with your invisible choices, it is in this place that the real vibration is formed. And it is this vibration that defines what will be visible later on. Manifestation is not a facade, it is a consequence. And this consequence is built deep down, in the moments when no one is watching, but you still choose to align. You choose to trust, choose to stay on your frequency. That is where the new reality begins. Not in the words you say to others, but in the decisions you make when no one else is listening. Not in your public gestures, but in the vibration you sustain when you stand in front of the mirror, or in silence in the dark. Truly transforming yourself is uncomfortable. It's lonely, because it requires breaking old patterns. It requires letting go of versions of yourself that were once useful, but no longer serve you. It requires disappointing external expectations in order to honor an internal truth. And that's not always pretty. It's not always quick, but it's always real. And what's real vibrates with strength, vibrates with presence, vibrates with consistency, and it begins to shape the field around you with a precision that the mind will never understand. This is the final call of this script. Not for you to chase after something, but for you to become something. Not for you to seek a perfect reality, but for you to vibrate with completeness that which you wish to see reflected in the world. Manifestation doesn't begin with the dream. It begins with the vibrational identity that you assume when you wake up, with the energy that you choose to maintain in the face of chaos, with the love that you direct towards yourself when everything seems to stagnate. It is in this space, without applause, without guarantees, without an audience, that the new is born. It is born not by will, but by decision. A decision that cannot be explained, but that is felt. A decision to be, even without seeing. To vibrate, even without receiving. To trust, even without a sign. Because true manifestation is not something you pursue. It is something you emanate, something you become, something you sustain with such truth that the world has no other choice but to reflect it back. And when this happens, when reality begins to respond, you understand. You understand that it all began back then, in that moment when no one saw, but you chose to vibrate as someone who already was. And it is in that moment that magic ceases to be magic and becomes just coherence, the sacred coherence between what you are, what you feel, and what you live. This is the true miracle, the miracle of becoming, the miracle of remembering, the miracle of allowing life to respond, not to what you said, but to what you truly, courageously vibrated. Silence as confirmation and manifestation as a return to essence. Everything you have heard so far is not just knowledge, it is a call, a gentle yet firm reminder that you have never been separated from what you seek, that what seems distant, in fact, already lives within. The journey of manifestation is not about achieving something new. It is about remembering who you need to be, to allow what is yours, to finally arrive. At this very moment, as you breathe, there is a vibration being emitted, and this vibration is shaping the next step, the next encounter, the next opportunity. Nothing is by chance, nothing is neutral. Every thought, every emotion, every silent choice is in conversation with the field, and the field responds, always, not in a hurry, but with precision. You no longer need to prove anything. You do not need to rush. You do not need to please. All you need is to remember. Remember what was said silently between you and life. Remember that true power is not in doing more. It is in being with more presence, more awareness, more love. because it is this presence that magnetizes. It is this coherence that manifests. It is this alignment that transforms the invisible into the visible. If throughout this video, something inside you became quiet, if a new breath emerged, if a silent certainty began to take shape, then something has already manifested. Because true manifestation begins in the frequency of understanding. And when vibrational understanding sets in, time begins to bend, reality begins to give way, life begins to rearrange its threads. It is not about waiting for the miracle. It is about realizing that the miracle is your vibration in its purest form, your daily choice to stay connected with what really matters, your courage to be whole, even in the midst of the invisible. If this script touched your essence, may it become an anchor. May it remind you, whenever fear whispers, that you are not here by chance, that there is a code within you, a purpose, a strength, a unique vibration that only awaits your permission to be fully experienced. Manifestation is not the end. It is the reflection of what you sustain when the world is silent. And when you vibrate truthfully in this silence, the entire universe listens and responds, always responds, in alignment, in divine timing, in love, in accuracy.